Pay for it.
Ah, there it is. So hopefully the lag time, everybody, is not an indicator of how good the quality of this feed is going to be today. I do see that I'm a little bit choppy. So please release your video order here. Oh, you can. Whatever. So I believe that my feed is going a little bit slow, a little bit choppy. Melissa, Erin, are you able to hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, so everybody can hear me. Quality may not be the greatest. I do live in the country, so y'all are used to that by now. Anyway, Tricia Peardo, CEO, creator of Turning Leaves Recovery Life and Wellness Coaching and everything that goes along with that, as well as healthy living on triciapeardo.com. And I'm going to start off today a little bit different. And there's a reason for that. And that's because I know a lot of people have asked me to explain why mastering the drop. Why have I called it this when we talk about, just regular living and coping skills and life skills and things like that. Why mastering the drop? Well, here's the deal. I worked super hard from the age of 12 to 43 to master either addiction or master dropping habits or master controlling things that I was, just super unwilling to give up. Like I was super determined and hell bent that I was going to be able to maintain and keep alcohol as part of my life forever. Right. And I did that for a really long time, again, from 12 to 43. And I always was, pushing it away and then reeling it back in, pushing it away and reeling it back in. And all of this is to say that, there's a reason why I do what I do. There is a purpose and a passion that is behind it. And that is because I took 30 years of my life to become a master at dropping habits that were no longer serving me. I've tried it absolutely every single way. I have worked on, again, alcohol. I have a long history with all kinds of relationships with food. And I'm going to say this very loosely, but pills, and it's not mind altering in that sense, but it's, using, prescriptions or, seeking something off the counter. And even with that, there's still this transitional piece of finding all of the most natural things I can to remove the man-made things that we need. And in my journey, I've been able to get rid of a lot of things, blood pressure medication, and so on and so forth. But okay, so before everything goes sideways and I get totally into what we want to talk about today, I am super passionate about helping people at no matter what level of severity they are in with shopping, eating, alcohol, marijuana, you name it. I've worked with, folks that are, trying really hard to get control of opiate addictions. And we all know that that's a very broad spectrum. And there is there's a very fine line with what I can do and what I can't do. And that's the other reason why it's super important to me to be a professional case manager. That way I can effectively assess and make recommendations. But my passion is to show you what I've learned in that 30-year journey, now plus 8 years of working in every level of treatment. From studying but mostly just learned experience of knowing what works and what allows you to live your life freely without feeling guilty, without feeling selfish, without feeling punished or restricted. And so I've simplified it to where I can give, and it's not that I can, I do. I give my folks, my people, my clients that come to me each and every week, I give them exactly what I know that works. And then they're able to get where I am in an extremely short period of time, because I had way more than, I had over 30 years of conditioned behavior to undo. And even I did that in a relatively short period of time, but now I'm able to provide that to people in an even shorter amount of time. And so I'm just very passionate about it. So mastering the drop, it could be codependency, whatever it is, there's a way that we can add, edit, delete, change, shift, morph, and apply in your life so that you just don't feel trapped, stuck, buried, heavy, weighed down, anxious, uncertain, all of those things. Anyway, so that's why mastering the drop, a real view of recovery, because recovery and addiction have much broader definitions than what our minds allow us to see, think, or believe. So, somebody might not think that going to the store, buying a bucket of brownies, and then binging it on the way home is an addiction. They may think that they just have some impulse control issues or, some overindulgence issues. But I'm here to tell you that this can be corrected with the same situations or tools or skill sets as somebody who's drinking daily, right? And so anyway, that's that. I just wanted to clear that up. I wanted to make sure that I defined this space, let you know that, take advantage of my more than 30 years of experience, because I'm so not 43 anymore. And also, if you're listening and you're intrigued at all, reach out, send me a message. I'm giving presents to people for my birthday. So I'm getting ready to turn 51. I don't care about it. It's just a number. So whatever. So I'm getting ready to turn 51. The first 15 people that register while I'm still 50, which means by the midnight on the 18th, the link disappears. I'm giving 50% off for either my Transform or Evolve programs. So that's 3 months or the whole thing. Like, I'm serious. I want to change my life 100%, 9-month complete evolution, right? So anyway, no more shameless plugs. That's there. It's on the website. I mean, it's on Facebook. It's here on the page. It's on Instagram. You can find it, or you can just reach out. Anyway, so let's get back to business. Thankfully, my guests, who are so amazing, this is something else you should know. I'm always bringing in my gurus, because I don't continue to grow, shift, change, morph without people that know more about things than I do, right? And so what better a way for y'all to learn what I'm learning than to bring them here and bring them into the space? Sure, I can regurgitate, I can, put my own tweak or spin on it, but why not just introduce you and bring them here? So that's what I'm doing when I'm bringing guests here to Mastering the Drop, is I'm just giving you full access to people that I have in my sphere of influence, in my inner circle, in my nucleus of what helps me, continue to be so inspired, just living, just breathing. Anyway, so these ladies are going to be with me today and next week. So I don't feel super bad about sucking up the first 11 minutes of our time here. But so what we're going to be talking about today is patience, purpose, and persistence. That's the agenda we have for all of May for our life recovery. So today we're going to be working on taking our journeys into our own hands. We're going to be talking about planning and what we want to see. Life planning is essential, especially when we're exploring our aspirations, our legacies, and finding our way so that we can be an active participant in our whole health. So let's start connecting some dots. We're going to, dive in. I think we'll focus a little bit here on life planning and whole health, which of course is going to include family development and professional direction. So with no further ado, I'm going to introduce you to my amazing guests. We have Erin Costa and Dr. Melissa Balizan. Did I say that right?
Balizan.
Balizan.
Very close.
I don't have my glasses on, and I'm like, I'm just so used to just first names that and anyway. And these ladies, they might seem to you to be at totally opposite ends of the spectrum, Erin's definitely in that life planning, estate planning, insurance, all these financial things that I'm clearly just in that whole explanation I'm not that great at. And then we have Melissa, who is in the pharmaceutical world or realm, if you will, but has like a super great approach and aspect and passion in her own practice. And so that's going to be in our health spectrum. And so we're going to start chatting about this in the sense of the categories. So if you work with me, you already know, pull out your life balance wheel. Let's look at all 8 categories. Don't forget the 6 subcategories in your health category. And let's talk about why this is important. And remember, I'm the recovery specialist here. These ladies aren't, but they do an amazing job of being able to help me reiterate why this is important in a recovery lifestyle journey. So, Erin, we'll start with you. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, maybe highlight a few of your passions and explain how having a better grasp of where you want to see yourself, can help with creating a better life balance in the present.
Thank you. So thank you so much, Tricia, for having me on your show. Hello, everyone. My name is Erin Costa. I'm with New York Life Insurance Agency or company. And this is my second career. I'm a career changer from the food industry. I went to the Culinary Institute of America in Hyde Park, New York. I graduated in 2008. And that took me on a journey from New York to Connecticut to Virginia. I was there for 8 years. I actually worked for Wegmans in their bakery department for 4 years. And I loved the company, loved working for them. I wasn't really sold on staying with retail for the long term. So I decided to kind of reassess things. I moved back to New York with my mom. During that time, I actually was working on getting my certification as a sommelier. Then in 2018, 2019, I moved out here to Santa Ynez to work as the pastry sous chef at Chiamash Casino in Santa Ynez. And then COVID happened. And so I was here for almost a year. And, with the mess last year, I decided to take a step back from what my career was at the time and kind of reassess where I wanted to go from there. I had been for a little while, been researching finances and getting my own finances under control. I didn't have a whole lot of debt, but I wanted to be more vigilant and more focused on setting a budget for myself and actually really sticking to that. And so I actually worked with a coach for a little bit, and she actually also helped me to focus on getting my career underway, my second career. And I joined a Toastmasters group back in September, and I met someone there who connected me to someone here in Santa Maria who worked for New York Life. And as they say, that's the rest is history. And I've been working with New York Life since January. So it's been a very interesting almost a little over a decade. And I never expected I would be out here in California, literally by myself. Everyone else is back east, so I'm literally just I'm the pioneer girl in the family. And my end goal is actually to become an advisor to people. And a little bit about why I decided to go into finance. Back in 2008, I saw my mom go through a really tough time after my stepfather passed away. He didn't have a written will, he didn't have any financial security at all. And I had to watch my mom go through a really tough time. Go through probate, all that good stuff. The house got foreclosed on. She had to file for bankruptcy. We had to move. That was a really, really tough situation. And I saw her struggle for many years to get her feet back under her. And, I'm really passionate about helping people like her and other women like her, and, really breaking through that feeling of shame. Like, she talks a lot about, how she feels so ashamed that she didn't know any better. And, we'll get into that a little bit later, but, it's all about, being kind to yourself, because, she didn't if she knew what she knows now, she probably would have made much different decisions. So, it's trying to break through that and helping people to secure and protect themselves for the future.
Right. So I like that. I love that you gave the backstory, because although you don't necessarily have, we'll call it quote unquote, that recovery journey, you still have a lot of, life and life shifts and transitions and anxiety inducing uncertainties that you were able to sit and look at and go, okay, like, here I am. What next? What can I do? How can I be productive and proactive in a persistent pursuit of a life that is going to be satisfying and whole for myself? And so when we look at this, and as parents of 5, my husband and I, you get kind of behind the game of the people that start super young. When you have a young family and you have so many over a pretty big span of years, and you have to play some catch up. But if you know that you have to play catch up, right? If you have your eyes wide open, which we know now, then you can plan effectively. And effective planning, right? It's doing what works and being effective. Effective planning really decreases that anxiety inducing uncertainty of, I know that I can live paycheck to paycheck to paycheck, but if something happens like pandemic, right? We watched it. I launched Strengthening Your Resilience at the beginning of the pandemic, because it was like everybody was just crumbling, right? And everybody was scared and frozen, and shifting from brick and mortar to online, that whole thing, or whatever they had to do, right? Or whatever I had to do. We have to be able to say, where am I?
Mm-hmm.
What can I?
Yeah.
And I know it's out there.
Mm-hmm.
How am I going to get there and create that action plan? We all can have a nest egg, even if the nest egg is, small in proportion, even if it's $5 a week, it's still something to fall back on versus nothing. Right.
Exactly.
And I think for our listeners, nobody wants to sit down and do, a living trust. Nobody wants to sit down and do a budget. Nobody wants to, that, unless they like that. Right. I don't like it. I don't handle that. My husband handles that. That's his forte. It's not my forte. But if we think about it, like these life planning things, it's not so that we can, leave a gazillion bucks. People tell me all the time, I don't have anything to leave behind for my kids. Like, so there's no need for it, but there is, right? There is a need for the life planning. And you're explaining that right now, because your mom, and I watched my mom become an unexpected widow also, knowing nothing, right? And it's a hard place to be. And so, that's another thing for our listeners. Don't be an ostrich, man. Don't put your head in the sand. Mm-hmm. Like we gotta have our eyes wide open. So I'm sorry. I just felt like I needed.
No, it's great. And going to your point about living paycheck to paycheck, I believe the statistic is about 60 to 66% of Americans will not be able to survive a $1,000 emergency. So that's, tires for your car, your kid needs money for a field trip, anything like that, and add on top of that, a pandemic, car loans, your mortgage, all that good stuff, student loans is like through the roof right now. And, you're looking at a tremendous mountain of debt to get through. And, how are you going to accomplish all of that? It's interesting how from the time I would say pretty young till about now, the assumption that you need to get into debt, especially for higher education, it's very interesting to see that dynamic in play right now. When I was growing up, it was pretty much assumed that I was going to go to college, and I had to just choose what I wanted to major in. But there was no other alternative. I think now, with things changing, trade schools are becoming more popular. Plumbers, electricians, people like that, they can make six figures, and practically without breaking a sweat. And these other schools, they are increasing the tuition almost every year, and kids are changing majors left, right, and backwards, or like just completely dropping out of school, and then they expect that loan to just disappear. And it's an interesting. These are interesting times, and I'm interested to see how this all plays out. But anyway, going back to my original statement, that whole being able to protect yourself just with a small emergency fund. I actually started to get into this a few years ago. I looked into working Dave Ramsey. For those of you watching who don't know who Dave Ramsey is, he is a financial coach based out of Nashville, Tennessee. And I'd say I agree with 75 to 85, 90% of what he says. He sets up this 7 baby steps. And the first one is to set up a $1,000 emergency fund for, rainy day expenses, things like that. The second one is to set up your debts from smallest to biggest, and get those out of the way. And then the third one is to set up a budget. And that was where I needed the most help, when I was looking into my own finances. And it's whether you agree with his way of doing it or not, I think it's a good thing to just sit down. And a lot of people are afraid of looking at your bank statements and looking at your debts. I believe in doing things that scare the crap out of you, excuse my language, because once you face your fears, then it gets less scary with every time you look at it.
Sure. And I think that's very relatable, because anybody that's listening that's early in recovery, early in sobriety, is trying to not eat sugar, or is trying not to be that impulsive shopper that goes to Target for 3 things and comes back out with 25, right? Hi, all my listeners. But we all have to let go, and letting go of things that we believe make us feel good or comfortable or bring us peace or joy or whatever it is. When we go, oh, I need to let this go, it's not serving me, it's scary. And I wanted to, I kind of want to put a pin right here, Erin, because I think that the two of you, and maybe both of you don't, but this is popping up for me. And it popped up a few times because you're talking about that emergency fund. Mm-hmm. I want to talk about our health, because here's what I hear, here's what I see, and here are the trends that I'm experiencing right now. Because we didn't plan for a pandemic, we didn't plan for whatever our employment status is right now, or just even that level of uncertainty, even if we are still employed. A lot of folks are doing this. So a lot of folks that are coming in and working with me are using and a lot of people don't know they can do this. So, I want to talk about it. Setting up for emergencies for our health needs, right? Mm-hmm. We think of our health insurance, we go to that, and we go, okay, well, so if you're in the recovery world or the addiction treatment world, et cetera, we know that really we get the most coverage for mental health. We don't get a whole lot. Well, at least not here in California. I can't talk across the board. I don't want to get into a whole what can be covered for, these kinds of things. But the trend that I'm seeing right now is utilizing those HSAs, which are health savings accounts, and the FSAs, which are the flex spend accounts. Now, I'm able to take those for my practice. I can't take your regular insurance, but I can take the HSA and the FSA. And if you look at these, they are really bulleted for things that are otherwise not covered in your insurance. Life coaching, recovery needs not otherwise covered, which means your detoxification and stabilization, right? The rest of it, most of the time, isn't covered. And so we start going, okay, so I not only do I need a rainy day fund, I need a health fund, right? For my emotional and physical well-being, because even sometimes if we have a, what is it? An HMO or, what's the other one? Anyway, not the PPO where you can do anything you want.
Right.
If we're not paying for the big one, right, where we can do whatever we want, but even then, sometimes the out of pocket is a lot, and so you go, I have this nest egg, and they don't allow for a lot. I think it's like $2,500 or something like that. You have to look. I think it's all based on your plan and whether your plan even allows you to elect into it. But here's what I've seen over the course of the year is that so many people wish they had the information to have that because of their situation and their needs, whether it be medically or emotionally, right? Some level of their health needed something that wasn't covered and they couldn't afford the out of pocket, right? And Melissa, do you have experience with that?
Yes, I do. And that is something that I believe is covered for some of my services. It depends upon your plan, though, because each plan is a little different, whether or not they cover, health consultation versus just, you can use that funds to buy ibuprofen and things like that. But it's very specific, and it's specific on coverage of even some of the mental wellness things that are covered on that.
Right. You have to read the bullet points of your specific plan. Don't go based on what I'm saying, because I just looked up Blue Shield, right? I didn't go look at every single one, and I didn't look at every single level. And I certainly didn't, look at the gazillion different providers out there. So it's all about educating yourself, either tapping into somebody that may be able to help you, like Erin or Melissa, or, I was a fully licensed insurance agent. I can't advise, but I can at least decipher. But I'd rather send you to a professional, because that was like some 20 years ago. Well, maybe not quite that long, but a good 10 years ago. Anyway, but so you do see that. But Melissa, tell us, because you're bringing up something here where I'm a provider, but I'm also a specialty type provider. So not all of my services are going to be covered. And I think this is important for people to know. So not only do we need this life planning, we need our nest eggs, we need our safety nets. We also need a plan for going forward, for security feeling purposes, but also to protect in the event that something should happen, for peace of mind living in today. But when we're talking about our health, our physiological being, as it associates with mind, body, spirit, talk to me. Tell us about you. I'll just stop now.
Thanks for having me, Tricia. I really appreciate it. Hi, everybody. I am Dr. Melissa, and I, like Tricia, deal in the whole body health area. And I say that whole body health because everything must tie together. And I think that's why, Tricia and I connected and we click very well, because you can't just pull out one piece of things. And that's what our current medical system actually does, is you go in and you get a Band-Aid for whatever ailment you have, and we neglect the other pieces of it. And those other pieces, whether it's a recovery addiction, whether it's something, some diagnosis that you got and you need special counseling for it, or you need more education or understanding, a class to go through to understand, well, what was I diagnosed with? What does that mean? What does this medication do? Is it the right choice? Should I do a supplementation instead? And so I went into healthcare. I've been in healthcare now for 26 years, and looking at my experience, I went into the pharmacy field, and so that is where my doctorate comes from. With that, I went in because I knew that would allow me a vast array of options. When I looked at all of the different places I could go, not just behind the counter where you're getting your meds given to you or dispensed to you, but being able to work with patients one-on-one, with clients one-on-one, with physicians one-on-one, and having that vast array, and all the way to research of different things and research of supplements. And so that's why I went into the pharmacy field of it. And given me that experience, I actually added it up, and I have over 52,000 clinical hours. That's a lot of hours. So I've got a little bit under my belt, a little education to help my experience to see,
Remember your much use for me?
that was a lot, huh? But what that does is that allows me, I've seen a lot of different things. I've seen people come in to a hospital setting with a heart attack, and then they go home. So I talk to them, I counsel them. They're given, after a heart attack, you're typically given a boatload of new medications because we want to protect different things that are going on. You have several questions. You don't know what to do. You have physical therapy usually to go through. You probably need to talk to somebody about your mental wellness. That's definitely a recovery from that huge trauma that caused to your heart. Mm-hmm. So there's all pieces that you need to have a little bit saved for, because things are going to come up, and maybe hopefully it's not as drastic as a heart attack for you. It could just be you get a new diagnosis of high blood pressure, and that's one thing you're like, do I really want to be on this medication? Well, my insurance covers the medication, but I really want to do that supplementation. And so now I got to figure out, okay, now I need to pay for the supplementation. That could potentially come out of your HSA or FSA, or maybe another rainy day fund that you need to have on the side for those things that are important to you, because you want to be the healthiest that you can be, and you only get one body. You only have this one body to live with. And so if you start damaging it, then it makes it a lot harder to come back. There is recovery, but it is a lot harder if you're not actively taking care of it. So that's kind of,
I love this whole synergy or synergistic thing that we have going on here, because here's the deal. We're talking about being your own advocate, right? Being purposeful, being persistent, being passionate for being able to hear yourself, right? We've got to connect with ourselves. We've got to hear, what is it that I need? Where do I want to be? What do I want it to look like, feel like, be like? I don't care if it's financially or physical wellness, right? We have to be able to know that. And I tell people this all the time because, primarily I work with people after stabilization. And if they didn't need stabilization, right? So it's, okay, I need to get rid of we'll just use alcohol. It's always my easiest cross-associative thing. But, okay, so I've given up alcohol, now what, right? Not everybody can just not, because we don't know things like post-acute withdrawal and the fact that it lasts for 2 years. We don't know what other kinds of things contribute to increasing those cravings or that propensity to do it, right? We go, okay, great, now what, right? We come home from treatment. Okay, great, now what? What makes life any different? What makes it any more tolerable for me right now? Only thing I did was remove, because you brought this up, right? We just take it away or we add something, but we don't really look at the whole ramification or what it really changes. And we need to, because simply removing the alcohol isn't going to fix the reasons why you have an emotional attachment to alcohol. Mm-hmm. removing the blood pressure medication is definitely not going to take away why you developed the high blood pressure to begin with, right? Or adding it isn't necessarily going to address the why you developed it. So either you're resigning that I'm just going to take blood pressure medication for the rest of my life, or you're going to say I'm going to take this until I get stabilized, and during that process I'm going to become an active participant in repairing, reconditioning, changing habits, changing whatever it is that I need to do that will lessen my need for the blood pressure medication. And guys, don't just stop taking your blood pressure meds, please, please, please. Like, this isn't medical advice. This is just, hypothetical examples. But, because I know I had high blood pressure for the longest time. And guess what happened? I went to my doctor at one point. I think I was probably 2 years sober, quit smoking, quit drinking, right? Gave up the benzos and benzodiazepines, Xanax for anybody that doesn't know what that is. And I'm like, I'm afraid to go to sleep at night, doc. And he's like, I'm like, I can feel all 4 chambers of my heart beating. He's like, well, why are you taking blood pressure med? And I'm like, because I had high blood pressure and somebody put me on it like 100 years ago. He's like, well, you clearly don't have high blood pressure anymore. Let's make it go away. But, if you're not willing to go ask the question, right, you're going to just sit there in anxiety. Why do I feel my heart beating, right? So again, I digress to the fact that I've invested well over 30 years of my life trying to figure out how you.
Uh-oh. Did she freeze? I think she froze.
I think she froze.
Oh no. Guess we'll wait. So
I think she froze.
I think, yeah, something went haywire. I don't have anything on my end. Yeah, it's interesting you brought up, I don't want to talk over her if she's coming back. But yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned,
it looks like we lost her for a minute.
I think it's just the two of us now.
Yeah, but we're still live on her show.
Yeah, so okay, we'll just keep it going until she comes back.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, my dad actually had open heart surgery a few weeks ago, and yeah, and he's out of recovery. He's fine. They haven't scheduled his physical therapy yet, but before he went into surgery, we were talking about insurance and what all that covers, and even he's well taken care of. He's always taken care of his finances really well, and but even with that, he said they just chewed right through the deductible. He still had some to pay for with the surgery and everything. So just having that in place is such peace of mind to have something in place for when you need it. And
exactly,
it's really, it's it's such a relief. He's fine, he's at home, he's taking care of himself, and
that's very good. That makes a huge difference. Yay, we have Tricia back with us.
I should also have internet here in a second. I apologize, everybody, but again, I live in a rural area, and I don't know what it is about.
Sometimes the trees.
Sometimes it just decides to go to sleep, and right now I'm just not at all connected. So I don't know. We may be stuck with me on my phone because I don't know what happened.
Well, we're thankful that we have alternative means of technology, so you can jump back on.
If nothing else, I don't get derailed by things that don't go my way. I just figure out how the heck I'm going to make it work. And so what I'm going to do is you guys, keep talking. I mean, obviously we were talking about being an active participant. I don't know where I cut out, so I'll just listen and wait until. I get myself set back up.
Yeah, I was just telling Melissa about my dad. He had open heart surgery a few weeks ago, and he made it through. He's fine. He's in recovery. They're going to be starting physical therapy, I think, soon. And I was telling her how we were talking about insurance before he went into surgery, and even with the high deductible plan that he had, it chewed right through the deductible, and he still has stuff to pay for the surgery. But it's still it's a relief to know that, he had this in place, that, yes, it's stressful, but at least you don't have to worry about having to pay for it. It's really, it's a peace of mind factor, and, it takes a whole load off your mind.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and I think that as each part of our lives we've gone through, there's I don't know the exact statistic, but PTSD, we've heard of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yes.
And most often we associate that with soldiers. And yes, a lot of soldiers come back with PTSD. I can also tell you a lot of people have experienced a traumatic event that has caused them stress. And so they have had some form of PTSD. And that is a method where you have to come back from, and you go through a recovery period. And in order to be your own advocate, number one, you want to start, getting better. And so we're here to empower you to take charge of your health and help you move past that traumatic event so that you are on a road to recovery and you are able to live your best life now, because that's what we want for everybody.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yep. Yeah. And it's amazing how, I think everyone has experienced, well, I would say, like 9 out of 10 people have, or 8 to 9 of 10 out of people, 8 to 9 people out of 10 will have experienced some form of some PTSD, whether it's a car accident or, you're riding your bike as a kid and you broke your leg, and that's caused some memory of, that traumatic event, or maybe you were in a domestic violence situation. And it's about, moving past, once you're out of that situation and you're moving into recovery, it's about not only healing the wounds, but it's also healing the mindset as well. And
right. And I think, and I know we have probably a hard time following, because I don't even know if I'm showing on the screen or not showing on the screen. Anyway, I think it's important that we talk about this, because, PTSD, traumatic events, all of those things, they get stored in our brain in a certain way. And where it is stored is where we have our fight or flight. And it also has a propensity, the longer that we hold on to it, the longer that we don't allow ourselves to look at it, package it up, throw it away, or put it on the shelf as a learning experience, whatever it is that we need to do with it. And I do that with my clients, one person at a time, because they're all unique. And it's all different, but it's about not carrying around that heavy bag of stuff with us and cross-associating it with other things in our environment, those people, places, and things that we allow to then generate anxiety and fear and panic, right? Just because, my fair share of traumatic events in my life, especially in, young adulthood, adolescence, and childhood, I had a lot of traumatic events. And the longer I held on to those, the longer I was going to stay in that fun 30 years of, trying to figure out how I was going to be able to keep alcohol as part of my life, even though I wasn't, what people would characterize as, I don't know, when people see addiction, they see that person laying on the couch or the curb or the whatever, not functioning. I was functioning very well. But, at the end, I definitely visited in my teens, maybe not some pretty, the high school parties, right? Like some of those days weren't my greatest, but
But, when we look at that, we're bringing in those traumatic events, and then we're adding in, substances, whether it's, mind altering prescriptions that have been prescribed to us by a medical provider, or it's, something that we picked up at the liquor store, or, from a buddy on the corner, whatever, none of those things are going to bring us relief. None of them are going to make it go away. It's actually going to exacerbate it. It's going to embed it even further, because we're going to attach it to things that are currently going on. And so now we've just said, I just want to keep bringing all this bad stuff with us. So we need to be very focused on our emotional well-being, because then we can reduce the amount of cortisol dump in our gut, and that stress hormone and all of these things. And we could probably talk for 100 years on this and never run out of things to talk about or say.
Absolutely. And going back to the mindset, if we're talking about money, I've heard a common saying is, money doesn't grow on trees. Money is the root of all evil. I would argue that, money is just a tool. It's how you use it that can make it good or bad. So you go to the grocery store and you have the power to buy either healthy food, or you have money to buy the junk food. And it's about, that can actually, money can be the tool that helps you sustain your life, or it can be the tool that helps you deteriorate your life. So you can, not necessarily good or bad. It's how you use it that, makes it one way or the other.
I love that you just said that. And Melissa, I know that you would probably, chime in on this. This is one of the reasons why I've taken the time to partner with Epicure for healthy living, because the foods are natural, it's affordable, and the recipes are amazing, and the tools that we are able to bring to the table are very valuable. And it is a better use of our time, a better use of our money. It's a better use of our digestion, and all of the things that make up how our body runs. And so, Melissa, what would you say, about, and I just want to, make sure we're mindful, even though I broke up and I, lost connection. I want to leave us in a really good space to leave people with things to think about. So, but Melissa, when you see people that come to you and you're consulting with them, what would you say the propensity of, I don't want to call it bad. I want to call it improper knowledge about how to feed or fuel ourselves, do you find goes in conjunction with what you work on with people?
I would say 80%, to give you a number. Most people don't know how to effectively nourish their body, to give them the right amount of food that they need. And each of us requires a different amount. There's no specific diet for anybody, and your diet is actually the food you consume. So that's what your diet is, what you're eating. If you are trying to, lose weight or lessen, get stronger, gain weight even, there's different things that we can do with your nutrition in order to make that more likely, more possible. There's also other components around your mental wellness that ties very much into how you're reacting to that, how you're reacting to what you're putting in your mouth, how you're reacting to what movement activities you're doing. So it very much ties together. And I would say that we're conditioned by commercials on TV, especially with even our nutrition and prescription medications. You go into the doctor and you say, hey, I saw this on TV and I'd like to have the prescription for it, and that might not be the right thing for you. I saw supersized on TV. So guess what? I'm going to go get me a supersized meal because it's only 50 cents more and I get 3 times as much food. And that's an exaggeration, yes, but still it is. I mean, you supersize because we think it goes back to that financial piece and that mindset of we've been conditioned to, okay, it's only 50 cents more and look how much more I get. So we think we're getting a good deal. And in some instances,
we don't need it.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
We usually don't need that much food. I mean, when you go out to eat, the portion sizes are usually for two people, enough for two people. If you go to any restaurant, most of your portion sizes are enough for two people. Now, there are some restaurants that have a smaller size menu, or they have, some of them have touted it as senior menus because seniors eat a little bit less, or a heart healthy menu because it's a smaller portion. But we're so accustomed to, we think we want more because we think we're getting a good deal, and we don't necessarily need that.
I constantly order off the appetizer menu.
Yeah.
Because, and I feel like, and I don't know, maybe this is wrong, but I feel like they just keep getting bigger. And so, one of the things that I think is really important, and I absolutely love this conversation, and we're definitely going to have to, pick it back up. But I love that we're talking about the fact that no two people are the same, no two people need the same amount, and that there's nothing that's one size fits all. So just because your best friend does really well with the Atkins diet or the Whole30 or the whatever doesn't mean it's going to work well for you. And generally what I teach or coach or help people explore and learn about themselves is that your body needs what your body needs, and it's not a comparison. We can't compare the way I eat to the way somebody else eats. And it's more about exploring what works well for me, why, and in what combination. People eat foods together that work well for some people, but not for others. Not everybody can eat a salad and a steak at the same time and not have digestional issues. And so it's about making it lifelong, manageable, maintainable, because we don't want to, because we get in this yo-yo, up, down, up, down, up, down. I'm on a diet. I'm going to, lose 20 pounds. And then I get there, and then I slowly but surely go right back to the conditioned way of eating my whole life. And then I blink, and then I've got 30 back on. And then I maybe come back, it's a vicious cycle, and it's not a healthy cycle for our physical bodies. It's not a healthy cycle for our emotional psyche. It is pressure inducing, self-loathing inducing, dysmorphia inducing. It's all kinds of things. And believe me when I tell you that this is 100% probably the longest part of my journey, well over 30 years of constantly having to, to watch what my dietary practices and how my body processes food, and that maladaptive way of processing it cognitively has been a lifelong journey for me for as long as I can actually remember. And so we want to be aware of that. And we want to say, how can I, mind, body, spirit, make a lifelong, manageable, and maintainable lifestyle? You take the word recovery out of it all you want, but if you habitually, I don't know, if you habitually, overdo on whatever it is during the summer because you're on vacation, and every spring you're habitually working your way to get whatever that bikini ready is. I tell people all the time, like, what makes you not ready? Like, dude, let's go to Target. They got some. They're there year round. We'll just go buy you one. You're ready. What do you mean bikini ready? That's not being very specific. But we torture ourselves in the spring to get ready for the summer, and then during the summer we trash it, and then the winter months come and it's cold, and our everything slows down, and it's just this cycle that we don't have to live in. It's not healthy. It doesn't do anything good for our financial stability. It doesn't do anything for our emotional stability. It doesn't. I mean, seriously, if you got to change, buy different clothes 2 to 3 times a year because your body's shape and size is changing that frequently. And I know you guys, I know there's plenty of people out there that may or may not be listening, that this is you. And so we have to stop the cycles. And it might not be a calendar year cycle. It might be every 2 to 3 years. It might be whatever, but it's not healthy. And so we want to be working towards that. And guys, it's it's 3 minutes to one. And I usually like to try to stay super focused on the 45 minutes. It never happens. We're almost always here an hour. I am so excited that we've started this conversation. It's the whole reason I knew I needed you guys to be here 2 weeks in a row, because we haven't even begun to touch the surface of when we're looking at our life balance, all of the important pieces and elements that come in: recreation, social, right? Development. All of those things take money, but they also take the physical wherewithal and ability to actually engage in them. And so we have to know how to start out small or slow or whatever. And sometimes, and for you people in recovery, please just, I'm not, again, I can't give medical advice, but if you're planning for part of your early recovery, say you've just dropped a 30-year relationship with alcohol and you think, I'm just going to go get physically fit, please have a full evaluation. Because when we're in recovery, early recovery from whether it's, again, a problem with food or a chemical substance, there's a lot of things that need to heal, and we need to make sure that they're sound to handle the type of vigorous exercise that you think that you want to have in your life. And sometimes our livers and our blood pressure or whatever. Again, Melissa's better to ask than me, or your GP. Don't ask me. I only know from personal experience. I wasn't cleared for a long time to do a lot of things. I think it was probably a good 6 to 9 months for me before all of my things healed. But I'm also very adamant about having my labs drawn every 6 months. Anyway, so ladies, please don't hang up. I do want to chat with you really super quick beforehand, but everybody else, I'm going to try to disconnect this, but I don't even know. I appreciate you being here. Please look in the comments. Both Melissa and Erin are going to drop their contact information in there. I'm going to make sure you know how to get a hold of me if you don't already. And we are going to be there for, conversations, questions asking, getting questions answered. And if you're not comfortable on the actual page, putting in comments, you can send me a DM. I'd be happy to connect you with Erin or Melissa, or you can just ask me whatever you need. We're here to answer your questions, and we will be back next week. So if there's something specific you want to hear or know more about, please let us know so that we make sure to create that extra space for you. Ladies, you're amazing.
Thank you so
Stay
much.
on. Don't leave yet.
Thank you.